Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to talk about which subjects are the best for you to study in your HSC if you want to study business or commerce at university and subsequently pursue a career in that area. I'm going to talk about as well whether employers even care about your ATAR, and I'm also going to talk about whether you need to study economics or business studies or legal studies or whatever in your high school certificate for you to pursue a degree in those areas and do well in that degree and then work in the area. Now, I'm an associate professor of finance, so I've seen what subjects are going to help people and which subjects aren't very useful or which subjects really aren't that relevant, and therefore I have some insight into which subjects are going to be the best for you to study. Now, obviously it will depend a bit on your personal interest and your personal skills, but there are some common themes that have emerged. Alright, so the first thing I'll talk about is, does your ATAR matter after you've finished university? Answer to that is no. No one cares, no one looks at it, no one asks you. So basically, that's the first thing to bear in mind. So if your HSC doesn't do especially well, then you can still do well if you've done well at university and you can get a job afterwards. So after you've graduated from university, no one cares what your ATAR is, no one cares what you studied at high school, and people will barely care about which high school you went to. So just bear that bit in mind. So the second question is, do you need to study business studies or economics or legal studies in your HSC in order for you to do well at university, or in order for you to do well after you graduate from university? The short answer to that is no. The long answer to it is, most of the time the subjects at university assume you have not studied economics and you have not studied business studies, i.e. there's no assumed knowledge along those two lines when you're studying business or studying commerce at university. So no, you don't need to study those because it's not assumed that you know them. To some extent they can marginally be beneficial if you're going for co-op interviews, but even then, no one's really looking at it. So put differently, you don't need to study those subjects if you want to pursue a career or degree in business or commerce, because they simply aren't going to be that necessary because they're not assumed knowledge, and employers aren't going to care whether you studied them. And then additionally to this, they don't tend to scale very well. So if you're going for a high ATAR, you probably aren't going to want to do business studies or economics anyway. So generally, I wouldn't be going down that route. The next question is, which subjects might you actually want to study? Now this really comes down to what skills are going to be useful to you in a business or commerce degrees. Those skills largely come down to numeracy, critical thinking, and literacy. When it comes down to numeracy, that implies do the highest level of maths that you're capable of doing and are comfortable doing. I.e., if you can do 4-unit, do 4-unit maths. Because A, it scales really well, and also B, it's going to be very useful to you when you're studying. That's especially the case if you're doing actuarial studies or finance. Actuarial studies is really going to benefit a lot from 4-unit maths. Finance will benefit quite a bit, although it won't be necessary. In finance, 4-unit maths will make your life a lot easier because a lot of subjects are going to become really straightforward after you've got 4-unit maths, because the math is not going to look difficult to you at all, so it'll just make it a cakewalk to go through them. While other people are struggling, you'll be able to gloss over them and not put in that much effort and still do well. So high levels of maths are going to be useful. They are especially helpful if you end up studying things like options and derivatives, or if you end up studying statistics courses inherent in that finance degree. These are also going to be useful if you're studying economics, because quite a number of economic subjects are quite mathematical, so a high level of maths is going to be useful for an economics degree as well. The next thing is the critical thinking and critical thinking literacy skills. These are intertwined, and also critical thinking is inherent in mathematics. Now, the critical thinking aspect of it really comes down to problem solving. This is going to entail doing, say, 3-unit English, and especially advanced English if you can't do 3-unit for whatever reason, and standard English is not going to be brilliant, because standard English doesn't scale very well, and also standard English is not really going to develop the critical thinking skills to the same degree. So do advanced English, and potentially Extension 1 English if possible. Extension 2 isn't really that necessary, but it can't hurt. Now, you see some people who are slightly pretentious about having done Extension 2. It really doesn't really make that much difference, and the extended writing task is oftentimes just waffle, and the way that people write at high school needs to be unlearned and then relearned at university. So being able to write flowery prose is inherently useless at university. So being able to do short story writing is not a skill you need to have when you're doing a commerce degree or a law degree. In any case, critical thinking skills are useful, and the ability to communicate your argument is useful as well. So high levels of English are going to be helpful. Now, diverting a bit onto a law degree here, for a law degree, again, 3-unit is going to be useful. 4-unit not so much. Of course, historically, the things that do well in 4-unit are creative writing tasks. If you write in a creative writing way in law, you will get demolished in your assignments. Basically, you need to be able to write precise, clear prose that is concise. Writing flowery prose that sounds lovely is going to get you destroyed in your exams, because no one wants to read that when they're reading a legal brief or they're reading something that's form of a legal argument. It needs to be clear, concise, and precise. In any case, that's a tangent. Then it comes down to the other subjects you do. In terms of selecting those, it doesn't really matter, just choose what scales well and what you're good at and what you're interested in. So, maybe something like a science of some kind, chemistry or physics are generally useful, but I mean, that's just in terms of them being kind of quantitative and good from a problem-solving perspective. Something like modern history can be useful in terms of being able to write essays and critically evaluate sources, but again, it doesn't really matter. We're not that prescriptive, and all of those are going to be useful in terms of skill building, but not directly useful to the degree. So, short summary of this video basically is, in terms of what you study in the HSC, target numerically difficult subjects that are going to give you numeracy, target things that will give you creative thinking, and also give you the ability to critically think about topics. Creative thinking is not the same as creative writing, because no one at university, at least in commerce and finance, cares about creative writing. You have to be precise and concise when you're writing, not flowery and waffly. In any case, anything that gives you good numeracy and critical thinking skills, particularly high levels of English. As for the other subjects, go with something that scales well and will make your life easier getting into the university, but otherwise there's not that much you really need to focus on there, other than really scaling to a large extent and what you think you're going to do well in. And as I indicated before, after you've graduated from university, no one will care what you studied at high school. No one is going to care which of your high school subjects you did well in. No one's going to look back on your 4-unit English and go, oh, you got 100% in 4-unit English. They're going to care about your university results, because by the time you've graduated from university, high school was 3 years ago. And no one cares 3 years ago, they care about your results now. So bear that bit in mind as well. Don't get too stressed out about what your ultimate result is, because it won't really affect your career that much after you've graduated. In any case, those are my thoughts on which subjects are going to be useful for you when you go about studying commerce or business or economics, and why I think mathematics and English are going to be the core ones you need to focus on. In any case, I hope this video has been useful to you, and I very much hope to see you for future videos. Bye.